Hey guys, so I promised to do a little more detailed video for the program Forge. I recently kind of hinted at that in the group on Facebook by posting that picture. So as I've said in the past, Forge is a procedurally generated or a procedural image generation program. And we all have to remember, again, I always like to start these videos, remember this software technology is coming up on being 30 years old. So while this may not look impressive at all today, just remember that people were, we were all going out to those stores back in the day and plopping down $3,000 for Amigas and hundreds of dollars for software. And, this is an example of, what we were getting. This is 30 years ago. We were getting this kind of powerful image manipulation software, and this is procedurally generated. And what that means is that if you don't have the ability to paint, if you don't have good 2D art skills, or you don't know how to use Photoshop, procedural generation is a really wonderful way to create textures and images that you can use in your art however you want. So, I'm sure, a 2D artist might look at this simple little purple radial blob over here and go, oh, I could draw that in like 5 minutes or less. That's no problem. But for someone that doesn't have that ability or can't, whether pick up a real pencil or use Photoshop, the fact that the computer using math can generate an image like this for you to use in your 3D or 2D it's actually really convenient. That was the power of Forge. And that's all these sliders all these sliders. Like, so if you look over here, you see this image. Now, if I go to let's just pick something at random, like, I don't know, T1 start, right? We'll click it and drag it to the left. And now you can see that seems to make the dark purple blob stuff more dark purple blob. Okay, well, now you know what T1 does, right? Because we just looked at it and we adjusted the slider. And there you go. Now that's less dark purple blob. So ridge level begin, or feature. Let's do feature scale size. That seems neat. Let's turn that down. What's that do? Oh, look at that. It looks like that now. Kind of like the Death Star after it got blown up. Or maybe, I don't know. Was it better? That doesn't work. Okay, so this is different now. Okay, let's do ridge level down here. So my point is, you can manipulate these sliders to change the math. This is math, and it changes the image being output. And then when you go over here, you can render that image and save it out as an image to use in your art. And there's lots of presets. So the program Forge comes with nothing except what they call textures. So if we go to load texture, you're going to see this folder. You're like, okay, this is stuff. Let's go into, I don't know, faceted, and it loads faceted. And you're like, huh, okay. And wow, faceted has 1, 2, looks like, well, 4 things it can control. That's fine, and you'll load these up. Let's reset everything. Let's reset to defaults here. Or let's say drop all textures. What's that gonna do? Okay, so here, this is even better. So here you go. There's nothing going on. So we go up here, we say load texture. So we go load texture. Let's go to pitted, and there we get pits. So that looks kind of neat. That looks like concrete, right? And of course you can change the color. It's the base color control is over here. You can make this more neutral to look like concrete. So there you go. That looks kind of cool. And it looks like with these sliders here, we can control how gnarly it's going to look. But you can see pretty quickly here how powerful this is, that just sliding these sliders around. Oh, look at that. That's the scale, the initial scale, huh? Just sliding that slider around, you're drastically, you're creating stuff on the fly. And even modern 3D programs today, being able to fractally generate images like this is still in use. It's very popular and very powerful. But again, this is almost 30-year-old software, and it was doing it, back then on our Amigas. It's pretty cool. It always blows my mind. And I used this stuff back then to create my 3D work, and I loved it because I have no 2D Photoshop skills. I'm terrible. The reason I got into 3D animation was because I couldn't draw to save my life. So anyway, when you get Forge, this is what it comes with. It comes with these load. When you go to load texture, it comes with these. This is what it comes with. and you paid like $60 or $80 for this software, and this is what you got. This is it. You can play with them. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of changes you can do to them in control. Look at that. Ooh, look at that. That's starting to look kind of cool, right? And again, I'm showing you the top-down view. Forge has the ability to change how you're looking at this. So right now, it's flat top. So this is kind of the conventional 2D looking down view that you'd render out to apply, the texture later on in your software of choice, like Photoshop or 3D software like Lightwave or Cinema. Or you could set Forge to do a sphere map. So when you do that, now you see the kind of classic, the old weird wavy line view that you see on old globe maps and stuff. That's so when you wrap this texture on a ball, it'll be seamless and look correct. And in Forge, you can pick how you want to render the texture out, which is really neat. Sphere top gives us a nice kind of cool spherical round preview of the texture. I'm not sure how useful this would be to use. Keep in mind, when you hit the render button over here, it's just going to render what you see over here, just at the resolution that you set using the options here. So resolution right now is, it'll render a 256 by 256 image with no anti-aliasing. Now what's anti-aliasing? Anti-aliasing is a process of blending all of these pixels on the screen together so they're not so noisy and chattery. See how they look kind of noisy and clippy and chattery? That might not show up on the video, of course, but that's what anti-aliasing does. Now, of course, the higher the setting, the slower it's going to take. But so just remember, what you see here is what you're going to get when you hit render. So if you want a ball, like this weird pit-zitted ball, that's what you're going to get. But if you want a more conventional texture map that you might see if you do a Google image search for concrete, for example, make sure you set that back to flat top, and then you're going to get a nice image like this. Now, if you install the Forge Essence packs, there's Essence Volume 1, Essence Volume 2. These are in the TOSEC, by the way. Then you can go load attribute. Now what load attribute does, unlike texture, it's going to load an entire host of these textures for you. So let's pick sediment, for example. Or no, pick sediment. So we'll pick sediment, hit open, and what's going to happen now is if you look down here, it says gas planet, another gas planet. So it's now mixing and matching multiple settings. Now in the conventional 2D texture view here, this doesn't look like much. So if we go to view, sphere, top, okay, so now you see what it's doing. You're like, oh, so yeah, in that 2D top-down view, it didn't really look like much. You're like, well, that's a boring preset. Well, go up here, switch the view to like top, or let's go to front. Now what is that starting to look like? Yeah, Jupiter. Now you know why it was called what it was called for the attribute, sediment. So, and the cool thing is you can animate this. So these values and this texture, you can go in here and animate these values and blend them together and write out image sequences and whatnot, which is actually pretty cool. And again, amazingly powerful. And so now you're saying, well, what do I want to render? So if I want to render this as a texture that I can use in my 3D software and map it onto a sphere in a 3D program, what do I need to render? Do I render this? No. What you'd want to render, go to view, and you'd want to go to a spherical map. And then there you go. So at first you're going to be like, oh no. So this is one of the things about Forge that I'm going to get into right now is lighting. So you see, the reason this is all dark down here, Forge has a light system so that, not everyone is able to render 3D images with lighting and whatnot. So you can actually bake out the lighting into the texture map or the texture image here that the Forge program is going to make. So if you want it to have some light, that's what it's doing. But if you don't want this light, because no, I just want this, I want the nice texture map it's making. I don't want all this dark stuff. I want to be able to wrap this around a sphere and not be have weird dark lighting in it. I want to be able to control the lighting. Well, that's what this stuff down here is for. So you see lamp light, you can turn this down. That's basically like your sunlight. You can crank it up, make it nice and bright, and then you've got ambient light. So if you go to ambient and you just max that out, now look what you're starting to get. Now you're starting to see the whole texture image. And again, as long as you're in view, sphere, this texture as rendered will map on your sphere or ball object like you would expect, look like Jupiter. So now you're like, but this is cool, the dark's not dark, but now I've got this weird like, what is this? Well, that's because we're still using that lamplight. So let's go ahead and take lamplight all the way down to 0. Now you've got a nice clean Jupiter texture map that you can hit render on, save it out. You can then apply this to your sphere and it'll look correct. But again, you have to keep in mind that back in the day, 3D rendering was very expensive. So lighting and shading, on slower Amigas was a problem. So this is why Forge has this really cool ability with this built-in light system to actually let you do the lighting before you get to your 3D rendering software and actually light it yourself at this stage instead. So here, it's like I want to have it really, really contrasty. Ooh, that's really moody, right? Ooh, that looks like 2010 right there. And if you want, now remember, again, you're going to map this to a ball in your 3D program. And if you map this to a ball in your 3D program, it's going to look like this. It's going to look like this. And that's with no lighting on your in your 3D program. So you could, if you rendered this map, switching it back to, as we said, switching it back to sphere map, if you render it right now, and then you took that texture that it rendered and applied it to a ball in your 3D program, it's gonna look like this, even if you don't have any lights in your scene. So you can turn all the lights off and then put this texture map on and then crank up the iridescence or luminance or luminosity of the surface. I'm referencing terms that you might see in the Lightwave 3D program, and you're gonna get this kind of look. And this is gonna render really fast because the 3D program doesn't have to calculate all of this expensive lighting and shading because you've already provided it in this image here that you rendered in Forge. So that's why Forge has these lighting options. It gives you that ability. But as I showed you, you can also, turn off all that lighting ability so that you get a nice, clean, generic, what they call like RGB image, just regular red, green, blue information. So that's another brief, but not really brief, video about Forge and some of the things you can do with it and how you would employ it. If you're going to map this to a cube, for example, then you could do like what they call a repetition map. Uh-oh. See, it's actually telling me here. Okay, so it's already letting me know like this isn't going to work. What's cool about a repetition map is that it is what it implies. You can tile this and you won't really see seams, which is nice. It won't look like it's tiling. I mean, it's going to look like it's tiling if you render it, really tiny, but you get the ability to render it without it tiling as much. If you want to map it on a beer can, that's the cylindrical map. And again, go back to flat top. If you just want the flat 2D texture, you can do that. So we go back to load attribute. We'll pick something else here. We'll go into the, what do they have for water? Cheese and broccoli, spiderweb, funky holes, evil liquid. Let's try spiderweb. What's that going to look like? Oh, that's boring. So right away, this is probably not a texture for 2D top look down. Let's go back to the sphere mode. And we see nothing. Okay, so maybe this is just a, oh, by the way, so this lighting down here, you may have, as soon as I started talking about controlling lighting in Forge, ambient and sunlight, here's where you see lighting. You can't actually control the sun explicitly. You can use presets, top right, straight front, top, yeah, so randomized straight top. Yeah, unfortunately, Forge does not let you move the light around in the program explicitly. You have to use presets. So this was a really boring attribute. I'm not sure why. This could be a bug or I don't know. Let's try cheese and broccoli. Okay, there's cheese and broccoli. And we're in the sphere mode. Let's go to top mode. And that's pretty bright here. What if we lower the coverage? Oh, no, that doesn't work. Let's do that. Okay. And you can see down here, see how it says applied and there's like a depressed dot and a depressed dot? Let's let you know that how many are in here. So we've got this one, and see how this little highlight box changes when I click this? So these two things are making this image up over here. So that's how you know what's going on. And so if you're just like, if you're adjusting these sliders and you're like, why isn't this thing going away? Well, it's probably because there's another layer and you need to click over here and adjust its things. So let's go back. Let's end this video on something a little more exciting than what we're seeing here. Let's go back to space. Space is always my favorite folder. Let's try dirty towel. Oh yeah, dirty towel. So there's dirty tile. Okay, that's what it looks like there. Let's do flat side. Oh look, it's like a Borg cube, but not. Let's go to sphere map. Oh wow, that looks crazy, huh? That's what it's gonna look like mapped to a ball. You go to sphere front. Yeah, so okay, that's not so exciting. Come on, let's find something exciting. How about alien chocolate? Oh, that looks crazy. That's alien chocolate, huh? Let's go to front top there. Alien chocolate. Well, I mean, that's something, I guess. It's stripes. Okay, obviously I'm not doing the best here with the presets. So anyway, if you go to preview, yeah, you can control, as I've shown you what you're doing here, you can control if you're going to see diffuse or diffuse plus spec. Remember what I told you in the lightweight video, specular is the reflection of like the lights and the sunlight. So if you want to have some sunlight in there, so if we let's say we load the attribute, let's load what we started with, metal disky, and we go to, you know what it is? You guys are probably screaming at me in the video if you were paying attention. I turned the lamp light off, the sunlight off, and cranked the ambient. So we're looking at what this would look like with no lighting. That's why it looks so poopy. Let's turn the ambient back down and let's turn the sunlight back on. Come on, sunlight. Come on, sunlight. Oh my goodness, this is these old programs with their stuff. Okay, so let's get some sunlight back. Again, this is why, if you're gonna light it in Forge, you do need to pay attention to this stuff. So here's metal disky, and if you go to shading, right now it's set to diffuse. So if we go to no shade, it's gonna look a lot like it did when we had ambient cranked up. And in fact, a shortcut, you could just do no shade and you don't have to touch the lights and you'll get kind of the clean texture. Or if you go diffuse plus spec, see this white stuff that's showing up? This is the lamplight reflecting in the texture file here. So now you get these white highlights. So again, you can do a level of rendering in this program baked into your texture so that your 3D software doesn't have to spend time rendering stuff like this. But you have the option here. So if you go to diffuse, you're going to see that bright white stuff went away and we're just left with the diffuse color, the regular color. Okay, that's it for my mini Here's Forge. I know some of you guys asked for more information about this program. I hope if you watch this, it starts to make a little more sense. I wish I had some cool rendered examples to show you. I actually do. I've posted on the Facebook group images that I've rendered from my past that use this program to provide me images to apply to my 3D objects, actually. If you go search the Facebook Amiga group and use my name, you'll see, if you go way back, you'll see some posts of things I've made that use this program as textures. Okay. Good night, or good day, or something.